Hi, everybody. So, I'm excited because this is going to be the first time that I'm sharing what I feel, God wants me to share with you all, what I've been studying and stuff like that. So, I'm also nervous because a lot of y'all are vets, so be gentle. But anyway, so I've been in prayer and worship with God and reading and studying the Word and basically just trying to communicate with God about what He wants me to do for worship. And I had come across this song called "The Call" by Isabel Davis, and I'll drop the link in the comments. But I cannot get this song out of my head. I don't know like what it is, but my spirit just cannot shake this song, right? So I'm like getting nervous because it seems like other than God telling me that that's not the song I'm supposed to sing, He wouldn't communicate with me. So I thought I was in trouble. I started repenting for stuff that I didn't even know if I did. And, I'm like, Jesus, like, something's got to give. Sunday's around the corner. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm freaking out. I'm like, I'm trying to do my part, Lord. Work with me. Give me something. And nope, nothing. So, um, so, um, I stayed on this song that I found, and I just continued my research from the previous week. And I was researching Deuteronomy 4, and I have a King James Study Bible. So in the beginning of the book, it gives like a brief history of what's going on in that book. So in the little synopsis, they were saying how God directly connects you loving Him with the keeping of His commandments, and from such produces blessing in the land. So I thought that was interesting. So I wrote it down as like a sidebar for another day. So since God wouldn't talk to me, um, I just went and continued my studies. And when I went to go continue, I saw that little note to myself, and I was like, okay, well, let me just study that. So it led me to Deuteronomy 11, and I'm gonna keep it brief. But the verses that I pulled after doing, a little more research on everything, um, was 11 chapter. This is chapter 11, verses 8, 13, and 14. And so the first thing that I gathered is that there's a process outlined. So Deuteronomy 8 says, 11 and 8 says, therefore shall ye keep all the commandments which I command you this day, that ye may be strong, and go in and possess the land, whither ye go to possess it. So, obviously, the very first thing jumps off the page is keep his commandments. And we all know what that means. Do what he say. And then it says that we need to be strong, which is to grow firm to grow or be firm in keeping those commandments. And the next thing it says is that we need to go in and possess, which means we have to be willing to go get it. We have to be willing to make a move because faith without works is dead. So then verse 13 says, and it shall come to pass, if ye shall hearken diligently unto my commandments, which I command you this day, to love the Lord your God, and to serve him with all of your heart and with all of your soul. So, during the process of us being strong and keeping his commandments, because that's going to strengthen us to make the moves we need to make, we can't forget to hear God. That's hearken, to hear. Um, but not just hear him, but to hear him diligently, which means with care. So we got to hear God carefully. And from there, it says to love and serve. Now, we already went over what the love part means. The love is in keeping the commandments. So then it says to serve, which is to work, kingdom work, God's work. And not just to do it, but to do it with all of our hearts and with all of our soul. So heart translates to mind and will. I didn't know that. So basically, we got to have a made up mind to let our will match the will of God. So that was deep for me, y'all. I promise he be making me talk to myself. Um, this is mostly for me. So, and soul translates to living being and desire. So we have to have the desire to live as beings like him. Like we have to have the desire to live like God wants us to live, like he says for us to live. So, when you have a desire for something, that means that you long for it, you want it bad. So we need to be passionate about living him and doing his work. We can't do it like with an attitude or just because we know that we should. But our hearts have to be in it, and our mind and will and desire has to all be in the right place. So, and in the beginning of 13 it says, "And it shall come to pass." So this is without fail, y'all. Um, So verse 14 says, that I will give you the rain of your land in his due season, the first rain and the latter rain, that thou mayest gather in thy corn and thy wine and thy oil. So then is when he gives us the rain in our land, the earth, you know. But wait, there's more, because he specifies in his due season, meaning we gotta be patient, because sometimes we feel like we're doing our part and we be like, God, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do, and nothing's happening. I'm doing everything you asked. I don't understand, but nothing happens until it's time for it to happen. God is very methodical, and everything that happens for a reason, and it happens in his time. He know why he did it that way. We don't have to understand. And so we gotta wait. So to recap the process a little bit, it's step one, keep his commandments. Then be strong, grow firm in keeping those commandments, because that's the strength you need to go get it. You got to hear God carefully, serve God in the kingdom, and do it with all of your heart, your mind, and will. You got to desire to live like him with all of your soul, with all of your being, and we have to wait on his timing. And at the end of all that, that's when we inherit. So I have this written down as a 7-step process, and I found that ironic because I feel like, the number 7 represents completion. So I figure, okay, so that's the end of the cycle. That's the inheritance is the last step. That's cool. Okay, got it. So the process is never something that you can just do once and then it's just peachy forever. You're always gonna have blessings. Like, no, it's built as like a constant loop. It's not designed to stop. So it stays in repetition. It's a life cycle. And for as long as you stay in the loop, in the cycle, God's promise will never be withheld from you. And that goes into verse 16 and 17 about all the horrible things that happen when you fall out the cycle. So don't do that. But basically the point is that God is calling on us to be like him, to live like him, to look like him. And he's saying that those are the things that show him that we love him. So he's given us instructions on how to get there, and we have to make that part the primary focus above our earthly desires. You have to go for what you want, but we have to, in this world, we have to go for what we want, but we have to be careful not to make what we want a priority over us seeking God. So, he'll add the earthly stuff in time, and you'll realize it was probably much easier to attain. But, so then I'm like, okay, God, I got the revelation, and I found a few, song choices that match, and, but then I'm like, okay, but why you have me singing this song all week and you ain't gonna let me do it? So at that point, he finally said something to me, and I'm like, finally, I'm out of trouble. I thought I was in trouble. I don't know why. But then he said, the song that I couldn't shake was a call to God, saying basically like, we need you right now. And it wasn't referencing like any material things or any sort of like crisis that we were dealing with or anything like that, but it was just for God to just pour himself out on us and just overwhelm us with his presence and love and all that good stuff, right? So what makes that relevant to the message that he gave me is that none of it can be done without him. So there's a process that he's called on us to, that he's calling on us to walk out. But he knows that we have to call on him first. We have to call on him for help to get our minds right, to get our hearts right, to align our will with his, to, get us through the process. So even though he's calling on us to walk it out, he was telling me that we have to call on him to even get through the process. And that was deep for me, because I be dealing with stuff. But so that's why he ignored me for days and left me with a song that he wouldn't let me sing. And he had to show me like to keep calling on him, keep calling on him, keep calling on him. And that's all I did. I just kept singing the song. The song is literally called The Call. So I just kept on, calling on him and calling on him and just calling on him, and I just kept moving forward, going in, pressing toward the goal, which was to figure out what I'm supposed to do for Sunday. And at the end, of the day, I was victorious. I got the message and I got the songs, and I got everything that we were supposed to be doing. Um, so it was like a real life example. Like he had to show me, like, and it was cool. I was upset because he wouldn't talk to me for a while, but I get it now. So this was my week with the Lord, and I hope that it blessed someone. It started as finding a song to do for worship, and it turned into this video because God think he got jokes. Because I don't be doing stuff like this, but it was a wonderful experience for me, honestly, and I'm happy that I went through with it. So yeah, be encouraged. I'll be back at some point. Leave me some feedback in the comments. I'm gonna drop that song, and I'm also gonna drop the process of how I have it written out, in case anybody wants to keep that or whatever. But yeah, so Deuteronomy 11 verses 8, 13, and 14, and that's all I got. Bye, guys.